Hi, I'm Danae from Simple Families. Today I'm going to give you a tour of our minimalist play space. Now, we don't homeschool. This is just a casual home play space. In our play space, you're going to see lots of gross motor toys because it's February, it's winter time, so we like to have a lot of space for our kids to get some energy out. And you're also going to see some fine motor toys, some art toys, some things to construct and build with. Just a good variety. Now, right now, my kids are 1. My daughter just newly turned 1 this week, and my son is about 3 1/4. So I try to have plenty of toys that fit the developmental needs of both of the kids. So the first thing I'm going to go through with you is the structure and the organization of the room. So the first thing that you might notice is that we have art on the walls, and that's intentional. We want our kids to be exposed to beautiful things as much as possible. So we had some art in here before we turned this into a play space that we left in here, and then we added some additional for the kids. We also have just a couple of organizational units. So we have 2 different structures from IKEA. These are the IKEA Collax units that we use for storing the smaller toys, and then we have a few of the larger toys around the room. We also have rubber flooring, wall to wall on the floor, which has been maybe one of my favorite things about the play space. We originally thought about doing a rug, and we found that doing the rubber flooring was probably about the same price, maybe a little bit more expensive than doing the rug, but it's been really comfortable for me to be in here, but also for my kids. And my 1-year-old has turned out to be somewhat of a wrecking ball, so I think it's probably saved her head on one occasion or another. So the first thing that you're going to see are the Gonge, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Gonge hilltops. And these are a really great open-ended multi-purpose toy. So they're more or less intended for kids to sort of jump across like river stones, but they can also be used as mountain ranges to drive cars between. The possibilities are really endless. Our kids have used them as hats, they've sat inside of them, you name it. So if we continue around, we also have a mini trampoline. So the mini trampoline has been really great as an energy buster. So when the kids are jumping on the sofas, we can send them into the playroom and they can jump on the trampoline instead. It's also been really great because we've been making some mini obstacle courses where my son will jump across the hilltops and then onto the trampoline and onto the climbing set. So he's had a lot of fun moving things around. So I should say that this playroom really never stays the same. It's always constantly moving and changing as my kids grow. So in the middle of the room, we have a small table. Now this table was a little bit of a splurge, but I really love it. It's by a company called Community Playthings, and it has 2 small chairs that are called the Me Do It chairs. And there are actually 2 different size chairs. One was a size that fit starting around 6 months of age, and it still really fits both of my kids. And the other one's a little bit taller. And sometimes we'll have breakfast here in the mornings or snacks, and we can do activities, art activities and that kind of thing at the table as well. The thing that I love the most about the table is the legs are actually adjustable. So right now it's at the lowest height, but it can be raised up as well. So this climbing structure, I'm not exactly sure what to call it. I was able to score this on Craigslist a couple of years ago when my son was a baby. He learned to crawl stairs on it and to walk up and down stairs on it because we don't have stairs in our house. And my daughter has learned the same. And it's just become this great multi-purpose piece of equipment. We use it in obstacle courses. The tunnel gets used to crawl through, to make a fort, to drive cars through, you name it. And the slide gets a lot of use too. The baby likes to go head first down it. Overall, my kids just have a lot of fun with this, and it's been much more useful even than I had hoped that it was going to be. So one thing that I really try to focus on is making sure that all my kids' toys are accessible so they can get to them at any time. And that includes art. And art is hard because leaving art supplies out can get pretty messy. So one thing that's really worked for us is to use this easel and some dry erase crayons. So dry erase crayons are maybe one of the best inventions ever. You can write on dry erase boards, but you don't have to worry about them drying out like you do dry erase markers. This is actually the dry erase board that goes with the learning tower. We have a learning tower in our kitchen, and we used to hang it on the learning tower. We found that it actually works better just to hang it on this gate right here, and it takes up a lot less space. So this has worked out really great for us to have a piece of art in the playroom all the time. So in our playroom, you'll notice that we have a lot of open toys. Now, in the toy detox, I will tell you more about the difference between open and closed toys. But open toys, sometimes they're called open-ended toys, can be used in many different ways by kids of different ages, by kids of different genders. They're very flexible toys. Versus closed toys, which are things that can be mastered or completed. And now closed toys can be great too, things like puzzles and shape sorters. The problem is that when you have a lot of closed toys, kids don't play as independently for as long, because once they've completed those toys and they've mastered them, they're looking for the next thing to do. So if you have open toys, you can have a lot less of them. So here we have a doctor's kit, which is something that's been great for babies through preschoolers, probably even young children as well. And we also have a ball that we roll down this tower, and my daughter has really loved playing with that. I said that she's 1 and she's learning a lot about cause and effect. So she drops the ball in and it rolls around and comes out the bottom. Now, my son also really likes that. He loves to play with marbles, and when my daughter takes her naps, we'll get out marbles and he likes to roll the marbles down that ball ramp as well. So we don't have any little small toys that are choking hazards like marbles, but when my daughter does nap, we do play with some of that kind of stuff when she's not around. We also have magnetiles, which are probably the best invention of the century next to the dry erase crayons. They are an amazing toy that keep kids busy for hours and hours and hours. Now, my son chooses to include his cars in the storage unit with the magnetiles, which is great. He uses them together a lot. He builds a lot of parking garages and things like that. So those sort of live together in there. The cars and the magnetiles cohabitate. We also have one closed cabinet, and that is sort of used just for practicing opening and closing. I try to keep my daughter out of the kitchen cabinets as much as possible. We don't do a lot of childproofing. When I see that she's really interested in opening and closing the kitchen cabinets, sometimes I'll hide things in this cabinet and she can practice opening and closing it, and shutting her fingers a little bit here and there. It doesn't hurt quite as much in this one. So that, including that door, was a purposeful thing as well. So this is the reading corner, and this corner was built because it's the 2 walls of the shelving units. And then we've added some clear acrylic shelves here as well. We have 2 on each side. Now, I chose to do clear shelves so that the kids could easily see the book options through the shelves. I like to keep about 8 books in the playroom. Most of our books actually live in my son's closet on a shelf. We have a couple of shelves that display books throughout the house, but the majority of them actually live in the closet, and we kind of switch them out and rotate them. So here on the shelves, we kind of have a variety. This is a favorite, A Day at the Market. This is on my list of one of the 100 most beautiful books. It's a good one. And then we have some classics like The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And then 2 more that I really love are 2 Usborne books. If you are not familiar with Usborne books, they're really awesome. This one's Look Inside the Body, and this one's Look Inside Food. And these are super educational, more nonfiction books, lots of open the flap type stuff. So I love those, and my son can read them for hours and loves to talk about the body and how food is made and that sort of thing. So this has been a really fun spot for us to kind of hang out together, and for both my kids to read independently as well. What it is just, we've got 3 different pillows in the back, and then this is actually a dog bed that I bought because it's nice and fluffy and cushy to put down here to sit on. So that's the reading corner. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the toys. This is a tray of instruments. Now I really like to use trays like this because you can really easily see what's out and what's available. If you're going to use bins, I recommend that you keep the bins short so the kids can see what's inside of it, or to keep them clear or having a sheer front so that there's no question of where to find what they need. If you have bins that reach all the way up to the top and they're they're not clear, then kids have the tendency to pull them all off the shelves and dump them out. So I really like trays just so that everything stays put on the shelf, but it keeps it organized as well. So this is a tray of instruments. Now, I like to use what I call the 80-20 rule in the play space, which is I try to pick toys that take 80% of the child's effort and 20% of the toy effort. So instruments are all the child. So the child has to make the music. They're shaking and blowing and using all of their own devices to experiment with rhythm and tempo and different things. So I much prefer the 80-20 rule when it comes to things like instruments, rather than getting a toy where you push a button and it plays the music. Now that would be the flip side. The toy is doing most of the work and the kid is just simply pushing a button. So lots of toys that require kids to engage and be creative, like these. The recorder is a tried and true favorite of every kid that comes in this play space. It's nice and loud too. This is the Hape car and a couple of people. This has been fun for the kids to drive around. They go to the grocery store, they go to bed, they go to the bathroom, doing all sorts of pretend play with real people. This is a tray of a couple things that I have set out for my daughter, because right now she's going through this phase where she just likes to take things out and put things in. So this is just a little box I got from Joann Fabrics, and it has some little wooden circles that I also got from Joann Fabrics, and she will take those out and put them back in. And she's also experimenting with putting the top back on. She's not quite to the point where she's putting them in, but once she gets a little more coordinated, I'll use this sort of like as a piggy bank where she can practice putting in the wooden chips. Now, the bucket has also kind of been a game changer for us, because she would carry things all over the house and drop them all over the place. So now she likes to carry around the bucket, and she'll sometimes pick things up and put it in the bucket. So the bucket has been something fun for her to take things out and put things in. This is the Rainbow People Mover, another one of my favorite toys for young kids. This is something that takes a little bit more dexterity to put the people in and out. And at just 1 year old now, my daughter is starting to be able to put these in. Once she gets a little bit older, she'll be able to match the colors and play around with the patterns too. So we love that as well. Now the drawers here, this first drawer, we have a couple of plush puppets in here, and these puppets are really fun for both of the kids. My daughter likes to play with stuffed animals quite a bit. My son never really got into them, but so these are good to cuddle with, but they're also good to play with, role play, and do puppet shows as well. And the bottom drawer here, we just have kind of an array of sensory balls that get used for all sorts of purposes. Sometimes they'll turn the Ganj hilltops over and we'll use them as baskets and shoot the balls in like basketball. So I think that does it for the toys. So the last thing I wanted to show you is the mirror that we have. So I always think it's great to have a mirror in a play space, and this is actually a shatterproof mirror. I don't know if that's totally necessary, but that's what we have here. And the kids love to play with it, whether they're dressing up or whatever they're doing with it. Having a mirror is really good for building a kid's self-awareness. Sometime around 18 months, they start to understand that when they look in the mirror, that person in the mirror is them. And it's been fun for me to see my son's progression of looking in the mirror and thinking he's seeing some other kid to actually realizing it's him. And my daughter's kind of at that stage where she's starting to experiment with that too. She still thinks there's some other baby in the mirror. So hopefully soon she's going to start to build that awareness of herself. And I think that the mirror is going to help with that. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of our minimalist play space. Sometimes when people think about minimalism, they think cold and sterile, and I wanted you to see that that's not the case, that kids still have a lot of fun in a place that's designed like this. The main difference is that it's not overloaded with stuff. And it's intentionally designed. So it's thoughtfully chosen toys, thoughtfully designed materials, everything's accessible at the kid's height. So I'd love to hear your questions about this. Please leave those in the comments, and I look forward to talking with you more about this as well.